out of here quick. They never work and that's why we don't mix. I don't got time for the fake, and I swear that I'll always stay real, something they never did.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another video of prep. Sitting here 3 weeks out from my show at Core 24 Gym. Gonna hit some legs and give you a rundown on how I manipulate my training 3 weeks out. There's a whole lot of thought that goes into training, making sure that the stimulus is appropriate to maintain that tissue as you get down to those low body fats. Today's a high day for me, so which means my carbs are coming up. Fats come down, protein comes down, but we're trying to saturate the muscle with glycogen. We had a huge 7-pound drop in body weight this week, so hopefully fill up this flat muscle that I got and get a little bit more energy because I'm definitely feeling the fatigue. So come along with me, train some legs, and I'll give you a rundown on why I do the things that I do and how it's going to benefit me leading into the show. I always start my workouts with a 10-minute walk. I also finish with a 10-minute walk just to get some extra steps. All right, so I always start my lower body training with a PNF couch stretch. So this is going to be a quad hip flexor stretch, but it's active. The goal here is to open up hip extension, get my quad to relax, but the active portion of the movement is primarily used to warm up my tendons. So after my quad tears, I do have a little bit of stiffness in my tendons. So by performing active contractions in end range, it almost preconditions the tendons to the stresses of the training session. So what I'm doing is I'm going to hold this for 30 seconds and then I'm going to push my foot into the pad for 10 seconds as hard as I can. Then I'm going to pull myself with my hamstring, pushing my hip forward for 10 seconds. And I'm going to repeat that for 3 rounds and then hold that stretch for another 30 seconds. So it's a 2-minute stretch per side, and I do 2 rounds of it. All right, this next movement that I do is to get my hips to relax. So my glutes tend to be overactive, and that affects my ability to rotate through my hips and get to that deep squat position. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a foam roller between my knees, lightly squeeze it with my adductors, feet under my hips. I'm gonna move back. Then I'm gonna grab nice and low here, and I'm gonna sit as far down as I can, trying to create as much space behind me. I'm gonna do 5 deep breaths, trying to expand my upper back. And then my exhale is through my mouth, trying to pull my abdominals in. Then I'm gonna proceed to the bottom of my squat, nice and low, and I'm fully relaxed here, keeping an even foot pressure, and I'm gonna do those same 5 deep breaths. I'll usually do 3 or 4 rounds of that in between my sets of hamstring curls, which is what we're gonna start with, just to open things up. The other benefit of this is a lot of the movements that we do for lower body are quite compressive on the posterior pelvis. So because we're relaxing to that bottom position, letting that pelvis roll underneath us, it allows us to create some expansion in that posterior pelvis, which is gonna open up hip range of motion. So the first movement we're gonna hit today is a laying hamstring curl. This particular machine isn't the best because the pad where your thighs sit is very flat. So if you don't modify it, you're into a very extended position. For me, that doesn't work well for my hips. So what I do, I fold up a hip thrust pad in a yoga mat and I place it underneath my hips to raise me up. And that puts me in a much better position to brace my pelvis and posteriorly tilt my hips and then contract my hamstrings. So typically in an off-season setting or the beginning of prep, my first movement of the day, I'll treat it like any other. I'll do a couple feeder sets, 3 to 10 reps, just trying to get to a point where I feel prepared for that top set, going as heavy as possible. But for today, I'm backing down. And what I'm doing is I'm doing 10 reps at every plate, starting at about 50 pounds. So I get 3 to 4 sets of 10. And then that 4th set is gonna be as heavy as I can go, bringing in some pre-fatigue, and then just 1 back down set from there. So just 2 working sets as opposed to 3, and using a different way to work up in volume as opposed to accumulating a lot of load. So as you can see, still taking these sets to failure, but because we've dropped down in top set volume, we're getting to that top set with a lot more fatigue from the 10s working up. And so you don't have to lift as heavy and still reach failure. It's a strategy I got from John Meadows, using it on the first movement of the day to really drive blood flow, which today on a high day is going to be extra beneficial. Execution notes, trying to keep the hips high, trying to relax the glutes, and trying to drive the knees into the pad. What that's allowing me to do is get my hip flexors to relax, which is going to be very beneficial as we get into the loaded patterns, like the big patterns of the day, the leg presses, the RDLs. We got one more set and then we're on to adductors. So I always will do calves with my second exercise, because if you're unfamiliar with hamstring training, your calf actually plays an important role stabilizing the knee. So I don't like to pre-exhaust my calves prior to training hamstrings. But today with adductors, I'll superset my calves with adductors. It'll make sure I have better ankle mobility when I get over to my leg presses, and it's not going to affect my adductor training at all. Now, some key points with calf training: always train the stretch position. So I do all of my calf training with a 5-second hold at the bottom, and I always finish my sets with lengthened partials to failure. So I will take the set all the way until I literally cannot get out of that bottom position. What that's going to do, it's going to make sure I'm taking advantage of stretch-mediated hypertrophy, and it's going to help improve my ankle mobility. Do not ignore the role of function in training. Training should improve your function, not make it worse. Adductor training is another one where you want to take advantage of a lot of that stretch position-mediated hypertrophy. And to improve your hip mobility, having better external rotation is going to be really important when you get into your squatting patterns. So I hit 2 working sets here, both in that 8 to 12 range. You'll notice I use a very strict tempo. Reason for that is I already have to use a gym pin with a plate on it. If I don't use tempo, I can add another plate to that. And the way this machine is set up, it's a belt-fed machine. It's not on tracks. So I'm honestly a little bit worried I'm going to break the machine. So I use that as an excuse to go a little bit lighter and move a little bit slower, more intent. All right, now the shit you actually care about. We're going to leg press, start off at 4 plates. We're going to go 4 to 6, 6 to 7.5, and then probably take 9 for our top set. Using a very nice, slow, controlled tempo, and try not to die. I don't feel particularly strong today, but we'll see what we can do. Still trying to stay as strong as possible. Not trying to leave reps in the tank. Not trying to relinquish that control. It's a mental battle as much as it is a physical battle. Some days you don't have it in you. Other days you do, and you gave yourself an out. I'm not going to allow fatigue to give me an out. I'm going to push this set as hard as I can, and I'm going to make myself I have every excuse in the world to go light and not try to hit PRs. I'm tired, can't sleep, underfed, low body fat percentage. I tore both my fucking quads a year ago. 3 weeks out, just PR'd my leg press. Your excuses. Typically what I would do, notice that I was pausing those reps. I would keep that same weight for the down set and just do no pauses. But this close to a show, you want to be a little bit protective. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a set emphasizing that lengthened range of motion, that deep stretch. We're going to do 1.5 reps. So we're going to come all the way down, halfway up, back down, back up. We're going to keep the set about 1 rep short of failure, just to prevent fatigue. But we're still going to take this set really hard and make it hurt, because we're trying to keep as much leg size as we can as that body fat comes down. All right, next movement is going to be a belt squat RDL. I really love this movement. I think for me and where I am in my fitness journey, being beat up from powerlifting, it is a phenomenal way for me to actually isolate my hamstrings in that hinge pattern and really get a good stretch. So a few key points here. We're going to be leveraging the hips back as far as we can, keeping a soft knee. I have been keeping track of how many loops I hook the bar onto so that I can lightly touch the ground in between reps to make sure my execution is consistent. And lastly, we've dropped from 2 working sets to 1, but that 1 working set is taken to complete failure. I'm really happy with that set because it was a rep match for last week, but much higher quality. But now's the hardest part, unloading all these plates. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but ain't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. the GOAT, Ronnie Coleman, Fitzbo. All right, last movement of the day is gonna be Bulgarian split squats. We're gonna do two things. The first set is gonna be with a bilateral load. We're gonna be pausing in the bottom, and we're gonna be keeping our front shin as vertical as possible, trying to stay nice and tall. Goal here is to bias the glute and the adductor a little bit more and work on that hip internal rotation. So slightly rotating towards that front leg as we go down, and then the down set, the last set, we're going to use the same weight, but we're going to drop that ipsilateral dumbbell, so it's going to be a contralateral load, and we're going to pause for 5 seconds in the bottom. So normal tempo bilateral in the first set, contralateral 5-second pause on the down set. We're going to keep these a little bit short of failure. The goal here is stability, to maintain that hip function. As these, as body weight comes down, there's less surface area around those joints to stabilize. So your ability to internally stabilize is going to be much lower. Plus, we're doing it at the end of the session when we're already fatigued in our big muscle groups. I personally find keeping single leg work, keeping internally stabilized work in my program helps me to stay healthy. And that's why they're in there. And it doesn't mean that you have to go easy on them. You should still take them as hard as possible. Typically, this is 3 sets, all 3 sets taking to failure, but we're just making these modifications towards the tail end of prep. One thing I did forget to mention, with this upright posture, a bit of a longer stance, what it actually does is it loads your back quad in full hip extension. So it's a fantastic bang for your buck. You're getting that back quad in that lengthened position, you're getting glute and adductor and a little bit of quad in the front leg, and you're getting a ton of rotational stability through the hips. Fantastic exercise. That was way harder than I thought it was gonna be. So we're gonna just do 3-second pauses on this down set. Also, fucking ripping headache. I got a massage yesterday, what I thought was a massage. And the guy beat the shit out of my shoulder and trap for an hour and a half. Shout out Adrian, it was awesome. Body starts to feel different when body fat's this low. A lot of more aches, a lot more pains, but honestly, I feel better than I ever have physically because of the way I've been training lately. All the tempos, all the isometrics, all the end ranges. It adds up. My mobility is better than it's ever been. My joints are just a little bit dry from being so low body fat. So we keep grinding, we keep pushing, and finish leg day strong. Right where we started on the treadmill. I hope you guys learned something. I had a great time. It was a great session, all things considered. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and tell me in the comments what you want to see. Just giving you an insight into the life, and hopefully get more comfortable posting content. This is all just an experiment after all. Peace.